Please subscribe and click the hype and like button to get more content like this. Before we start, a quick disclaimer. Everything demonstrated in this video is strictly for educational purposes. To show you how to protect yourself, all demonstrations are performed in a controlled lab environment on our own testing devices. We never target real users, and using this knowledge to gain unauthorized access to actual people or systems is strictly illegal and unethical.
In this video, we're going to look at how we can use the Hunter email outreach platform for enumeration and reconnaissance during a penetration test. To get started, open up a web browser and navigate to the URL seen at the top of my screen, which is hunter.io. On the main screen of the page, you'll need to create an account to start using the platform. So click on Get Started for free, and then go through the process of signing up for an account. Once you have successfully created an account, you will be brought to this main dashboard. On this dashboard, we can start using the Hunter platform. What you will see is in the main part of the page, a search bar that we can use to describe companies that we're looking for, and on the left, we have filters we can apply to our search. And on the top bar, we have a variety of different tabs that we can navigate to, with the default tab being this Discover tab. To get started, let's click on the Show Me an Example button. And what this has done is it has applied a search for companies using Canada as a location. So what we see is a list of companies that match that filter. So if we click on Shopify.com, we can see that there are 546 email addresses associated with Shopify.com, and it brings up a tab with information about the company, more details on the company below that, and then we have an email addresses tab within the drawer. Under that emails tab, we have a list of emails associated with the domain Shopify.com and the company Shopify. So a use case for this would be if we were running a penetration testing campaign to evaluate the overall cybersecurity knowledge of a company base, and we wanted to do something like a test phishing attack on an organization, we could use this email address to create a list of people we want to test. If we navigate to the Technologies tab, it gives us a list of the technologies that are used on Shopify.com, which can be useful for our penetration tests to try and find vulnerabilities within specific pieces of software or packages that we could use in our penetration test. And then if we click on Signals tab, this gives us a list of updates that have been found for this company. So we can see that on August 10th, 2024, a new email address was found. And we can scroll through this list to see what kind of updates have happened around this company. Now, let's return to the main screen. First, we can clear out our filters either by clicking on the X underneath headquarters location or by clicking Clear All. Now we're brought back to the same main screen we started on. Let's try a search of our own, and we can use the ghost text in the search bar as an example. So let's try out small companies in Austin, Texas. And now we can see a list of small companies in Austin, Texas, along with the email addresses that would be associated with those companies. And we can see the list of people for these companies tends to be around 1 to 10, and we can see what type of company they are and their location. So in this way, we can start to gather information about whatever company it is we're looking for, as long as that information is present in Hunter.io's search database. Now let's explore some of the other tabs along the top of this page. If we click on the Search tab, this brings us up to a domain search. If we click on the question mark beside the domain search title, it gives us more information about what the domain search is doing. And generally, this search is going to find all the email addresses for whatever domain name you search for. And the key here is that these email addresses will appear publicly somewhere on the web, and Hunter will find those for you. And cost information around this domain is listed below. So if I type in Shopify.com again to the domain search, we can see it has popped up with some suggestions that we might be looking for. And the first one is the one that we saw earlier with 546 results. And so if I click on that, we can see that same list that we saw earlier with the email addresses. And from here now, we can start to apply filters on this email address list, like either personal or generic, the department that the email address is associated with, or show only results that have phone number, position, or full name. And like before, if we want to clear out our search, we can go into the search bar and click on the X button, and it brings us back to the main domain search. We can also see that it maintains a history of our recent searches. So if we want to reapply a search or reperform a search, we can do that easily here. Moving on to the next tab, we can click on the Finder tab. And here we can use the Email Finder. Once again, if we click on the question mark beside the Email Finder title, it gives us a description about what this is doing. So this gives us a way to find email addresses using a name and domain name combination. So we could try test@test.com. And it tells us that this domain is used by a disposable email address provider. But if we click on something else in the list, like test.gg, it can tell us we couldn't extract a first name and a last name from the provided full name. We could leave that blank, and it will tell us we're missing the first name parameter. If we type in John Doe, it tells us we didn't find an email address for John Doe. So we can use this tool to verify whether or not a given email address exists. Returning to the question mark, we can also see that it will return us with a confidence score of how confident the platform is that this is a verified real address. Moving on to the Verifier tab. Once again, we can enter an email address here, and if we click on the question mark, we can see that the email verification tool gives us a way to check whether or not an email address is deliverable without actually needing to send an email to that address. This can be very useful if you're trying to avoid detection during your penetration test. So if we type in test@shopify.com, we can see it gives us some information, but this is an accept all domain, so they can't determine whether the email is valid or not. But we do have a confidence score of 73% associated with that information about Shopify.com accepting all email addresses. Now let's move on to the Bulks tab. And this is where we can do a lot of these previous tasks that we've looked at, but we can do them in bulk. So we can perform bulk domain searches, email finders, and email verifiers. If I click on domain search, we could launch a bulk domain search from here by clicking on the new bulk button. And then we can go through and fill out all of the necessary fields to perform a bulk domain search. And this will do the same thing that we saw domain search do, but on a larger scale. And finally, let's look at the Campaigns tab. On the Campaigns dashboard, we can click on the New Campaign button. And what this will allow us to do is launch something like a phishing campaign against a list of email addresses. So within this page, we can select the content that we want to have within our email campaign, such as the from sender, the subject, the body of the email. We can choose to have follow-ups, insert unsubscribe links in the emails, and track the email opens, all of which can be useful when determining the cybersecurity awareness of an organization. As we move through these campaign settings, we'll be able to set audiences, various settings, and review, and then launch the campaign from here and see the various statistics and metrics about our campaign within the campaign window. So we will be able to click on engagement, reporting, and get all kinds of information about this when we launch an actual campaign. So this is how we can use the Hunter platform for our reconnaissance, information gathering, and other penetration testing activities.